The time. AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Friday. I'm glad you made it. Sitting in the studio with me is a candidate for district attorney, Laramie County, Wyoming. And so we talked to you the first time. This is Leigh Manlove. You talked to the first time that you came here to announce that you were going to go ahead and run. And now this is the final sweep before the big ending in November.
Yep.
How's it going out there?
Super fun thus far. And, you know, I was unopposed in the Republican primary.
I noticed that.
Which is somewhat unusual in Wyoming politics. Usually the meat of the contest is in the primary because we're a vastly Republican state. But I do have an opponent, just hasn't done anything. Literally has not been present. So
there's somebody on the ballot, but were they just not showing up for events and so on?
Yeah,
What's going on?
And that's it exactly. So Tuesday, the Laramie County Child Protection Team sponsored what was supposed to be a candidates forum.
Yeah.
And we both accepted the invitation, and it was a room full of people at the library, and no show,
so
I
guess you get all the questions in and you get to answer everything.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
All right, so when you go out there and talk to the people, which I know the only way to win this is for you just to go around and talk to people.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
is not like some statewide or national campaign. So when you go out and talk to people like that, what kind of questions are you getting?
Mostly they're questions related to experiences people have personally had with the criminal justice system, and oftentimes it's their experience with being a victim of crime, property crime. There's a lot of concern in Laramie County that there's been an uptick in property crime. And that bothers people. You know, they work hard for their income, which they then choose to spend on, a new bike or their car or their house or whatever it might be. So when people are the victims of property crime, it feels very personal. It might just be a bike on a police report, but it matters to them.
Sure.
So people are concerned about that uptick, and then also the drug use that we're seeing in the community.
Right.
Because addiction affects people in a very personal way. If you have a loved one, a family member who's struggling with an addiction and then gets in trouble on the criminal side, you have a very different opinion than maybe the person whose bike gets stolen by the addict who's trying to feed the habit.
Okay. Now, I have been encouraging more of the criminal element, like the guy who was at the Yellowstone Geyser, who came down here and drove erratically and set his own car on fire. That's the kind of criminal element that I'm encouraging down here. But now what they're worried about is prosecution of this, because you can't arrest anyone. You're not investigating anyone.
Correct.
But we have to make sure that these people are actually paying their dues, serving their time, getting, and hopefully in some way coming out better for it after the process is over with here.
Right.
So have we had a problem with convictions in Laramie County in the past? Okay.
Yes. So I kept hearing this interesting statistic, and it was mostly within legal circles, but what I kept hearing was that the Laramie County District Attorney's Office at trial was losing 80% of those trials.
Yeah.
And that's highly unusual in the criminal justice system. And if you think about it, it makes sense because it's the prosecutor who decides, yes, I'm going to charge the person, and here's what I'm going to charge that person with. It's the state who investigates the case, and then it's the prosecutor who decides whether or not to enter into a plea agreement. So, the bulk of that decision-making belongs with the prosecutor.
Sure.
So you would think, oh, okay, you're going to take your strong case to trial. So typically, it's the defense bar that loses 80% of trials in the criminal system. But we haven't seen that here. And I think that that's a big part of the dissatisfaction people have.
So what's the problem and what do you plan to do about it?
Well, the problem is the cases are not being properly evaluated at the very beginning.
Okay.
And then they're not properly charged. And then they're not being properly managed throughout the life of that case. So that when it gets to trial, I don't think it's trial ready. It may not even be appropriate to take to trial.
Is that just lack of experience?
I don't know so much if it's lack of experience because it's not rocket science.
Okay.
I mean, I know that the lawyers out there, we want everyone to think we're brilliant.
Well, again, it is to someone like me. I wouldn't know where to begin on something like that if I was a new attorney. So that's why I'm wondering, is it lack of experience? We just have a bunch of young lawyers there? What's the problem?
I think there are a couple different things. Experience does matter. You need to have a very experienced person at the helm because you've got to be able to make some judgment calls. And you look at the facts of the case and you look at the law, and then you apply the law to the facts. So part of it, too, is, you know, you're not going to be very good at something you don't do very often.
Right.
And you do need to try a lot of cases to get good at that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, a baby attorney, so to speak, can't learn, because they can, but you need to have really good mentoring in that office. I don't think that's been happening. And you need to have people who know what they're doing.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I would like to bring back to that office is a standard, a really high standard.
Right. Okay, so in order to bring that high standard, you're going to have some kind of experience and knowledge yourself. So where does that come from for you?
I worked in the DA's office previously. I was there for 5 years, and I did everything from, you know, misdemeanor drug possession and DUI cases all the way to felony drug prosecution through the U.S. Attorney's Office. And then I also did what Wyoming defines as violent felonies. So that would be, you know, homicide, sexual assault, sexual abuse of children. And within that, you know, kind of doing everything, I have a really good broad-based knowledge. So I would be able to help people learn how to try that kind of a case, how to evaluate that kind of a case.
Okay, and some people would ask you then, so what's been your record when it comes to prosecuting and winning?
It's a fair question. I can't tell you exactly how many cases I've won. I've tried somewhere between 30 and 40 cases to trial, but I can tell you exactly how many I lost, which is 5.
Okay.
And the reason I know that is because I learned far more in my 5 losses than I did in all of the other wins. And I think that's true in life as well. You learn more when you
usually do. Yeah, if you fail and you admit that you failed and paid attention to it.
Absolutely. And one of the things I always did was I had a staff person in the office call jurors after the trial was over and just say, "Hey, could we get some feedback from you? What worked? What was effective? What didn't work?" Because we want to do a better job next time.
Right.
And I just got fantastic information that way. And I think it made me a better prosecutor.
Leigh Manlove is my guest, candidate for District Attorney in Laramie County. If you have any questions, 682-6500. That's 632-632-6500.
Message and data rates may apply. Please do not text and drive.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Download the app or text TRY to 484848. Text TRY to 484848 to try Babbel for free. That's TRY to 484848.
Save big this autumn season during Menards Fall Catalog Sale. Menards has the blocks you need to create your ideal backyard. Whether it's a spacious patio, a stunning fire pit, or a sturdy retaining wall, there's no limit to what you can create with so many styles and options to choose from. Lakewood retaining wall blocks are just $1.99 each. Get Lakewood extra large blocks for $2.99 each. Sale prices are good through September 22nd during Menards Fall Catalog Sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Working on the house can wait. Working on your moves in Denver can't. Discover all there is to do this October in Denver. Get down at Sting and Shaggy on October 5th. Sing your heart out at Christina Aguilera on October 19th. And experience the musical Love Never Dies from October 23rd through the 28th. Go ahead and put off the housework. Reclaim the weekend at denverweekends.com.
If you fly a lot, every trip to Denver gets a little harder. Traffic, parking, security. That's why we're excited about the new Cheyenne Airport Terminal. It's going to be easier and better than driving to DIA. Direct flights to Dallas-Fort Worth start November 4th on American Eagle Jet operated by SkyWest. Join Town Square Media at the new Cheyenne Airport Terminal Open House September 22nd for live music, food, ticket giveaways. No traffic, free parking, no lines, lower true cost. The new Cheyenne Airport is bringing back the magic of flying.
The 2018 Kia Stinger can be your dream vehicle come to life. I'm AJ Miller, and we have the impressive 2018 Kia Stinger here at Kia of Cheyenne. The Kia Stinger comes with choice of 2 turbocharged engines, giving the Stinger strong performance at a budget-friendly price. This car is tough to beat with numerous standard features and comparably priced lower than other vehicles in its class. You need to come to Kia of Cheyenne and drive the Stinger today. Call us at 775-0123 or go to keyofcheyenne.com and we'll make it easy.
Provocative views, passionate talk. Glenn Beck tells it like he sees it. Monday through Friday at 4, weekends at 5 on AM 650 KGAB.
8:20 is the time. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Sitting in the studio with me is Leigh Manlove, who is running for District Attorney, Laramie County. Grab your headphones right over there because there's a caller on the line. If you have any questions, 632-6500 is the phone number. This is Glenn, who's on the phone with us.
Good morning, Glenn. This is Rick.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question. The question is would the district attorney support a program that's going on right now in Chatham, New York? And how it works is this. If the person or persons feel like they've got a drug problem or whatever, they can go into the police and say, hey, I've got a drug problem, without being prosecuted and or turned over to the district attorney for prosecution. Would you be interested in doing something like that, or maybe getting something that started within the, a few problem cities? And I hate to use the word problem, okay?
Well, I appreciate the call, Rick, and it's a really important question. I will tell you there's a disclaimer. Addiction runs long and deep in my Irish family. And so I have a sensitive place in my heart for that. And I, in my private practice, have represented a lot of addicts. And I believe in treatment. Treatment works. But I'm not familiar enough with the program that he's referencing to speak substantively on it. And I also am very careful because the position I'm seeking is executive branch and not legislative. And one of the pledges I made early on is I'm not going to try and legislate from the prosecutor's office.
You do have a chance, though, to bring some of these issues to the legislators and even maybe sit in on some meetings and advise, correct?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. And what we know with absolute certainty is that treatment courts work. So that somebody who has an addiction, whether it's alcohol with DUIs or drugs, and they're in drug court, those programs work because they're not just treating the substance abuse issue, they're treating all of the other things. It's called wraparound is the fancy word, but basically we're helping you get your life together. And those programs work, and I support them totally.
When do you, and I know this is a judgment call, take a look at someone and say, well, this is just a person with a problem, and instead of seeking jail time, we're going to seek help. And then how do you know, well, this person is just a problem and they need to be taken out of society? How do you make that call?
Well, there are a couple different things that guide that decision making, and one is the law. So what people tend to forget in Wyoming, or maybe they don't even know, is that Wyoming law prefers probation and treatment. And in fact, a district court judge in a felony case has to make a finding about why probation was rejected as a sentencing option. And that's why you see the majority of people sentenced to probation, because people can get treatment that way. But one of the other factors you look at as a prosecutor is what's your criminal history. So this is your 14th interaction with law enforcement, and perhaps there are some issues that need to be addressed through the criminal justice system. If it's your first offense, you're 19 years old, you were minor in possession of alcohol, we need to be reasonable about how we approach that case.
Okay. Leigh Manlove is running for district attorney, Laramie County. So you get into the office after you've redecorated. I mean, obviously. Are there some people, I don't want to really spoil this for some people who are working there right now. Are there some people who would lose their jobs, some people who would keep their jobs? How do you plan to organize the office?
I think that people who have worked with me previously know what my work ethic is, which is 125%. I'm not a shortcut person. I don't believe in clocking in from 9 to 5. So I think people who worked with me previously who don't share that work ethic, they'll find something else. And people who want to work hard, who want to achieve excellence, there won't be any shortage of those folks who want to work in the DA's office.
Where do you find, when you're looking for someone to fill a position, where are you looking for people like that, and what are your criteria?
Well, I haven't started looking yet because I don't have a job myself.
Right. Okay. But let's assume you're there.
Okay, so assume I'm there, and part of it is that people who want to prosecute are a rare breed, because it's not always a happy, wonderful thing.
Well, and could I say that they could make a lot more money in the private sector than with you? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So that's difficult too, because sometimes the really fantastic trial lawyers don't want to walk away from the great thing they have going. But people who believe in public service, who want to make a difference, they're attracted to that kind of a job.
Okay. So that leads to this question then. What attracts you to this job?
I initially wanted to do the job because it was something I hadn't actually done before, and I enjoy a challenge. I had no idea what I was actually getting myself into many years ago. I do now. And I never really wanted to be a politician, frankly. I never saw myself as the person running for office. I just really wanted to do the work. But it's clear to me that the only way for me to make a difference in my community with the skill set I have is to run for the elected position. And, what happens in that office is super serious. Depriving you of your liberty is no small thing. And so whoever is in that position needs to have a lot of reverence for the Constitution and our laws. And that's something that I promise I will do if in office, because on the criminal defense side, which is what I've been doing the last couple of years, I've learned, I don't really like how that works. Or I think that could be done better, on the prosecution side. So I go into this knowing full well what I'm asking people to give me the responsibility to do, and totally equipped to carry it out.
There are times when you've been on the defense side that you're defending someone. I would bet this has happened, that you're thinking, oh, I really don't want to defend this. Has that happened to you? No, it hasn't. Okay.
And I think part of the reason is because I'm a very direct person.
Okay.
And so you have to be a good fit with your lawyer. And people who aren't a good fit with me don't hire me.
Okay. So what about the prosecution side then? If someone comes in that you got to prosecute, would you ever find yourself in a position thinking, I really don't want to prosecute this. This is wrong?
I never encountered that.
Okay.
But I don't ever say never.
Right.
I mean, that could happen. And I would, if it was a conflict of interest, I would ask for another prosecutor from another jurisdiction to come in and do that case.
Didn't know you can do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Right. Do you sit on, most people who have a position like yours sit on other kind of boards around the state? Okay. So what kind of boards would you sit on? What kind of decisions?
That is a great question. So here's an example. We have an Adult Community Corrections Center in Cheyenne, an ACC. There's also one in Casper and Gillette. And by law, there are people who are required to sit on the ACC board to decide whether or not to accept an applicant into the ACC. Well, the district attorney is one of those people, along with the chief of police and the county sheriff and a member of probation and parole. So there's a whole group that sits on that board and makes those decisions. And the district attorney is one of them.
Okay. Well, now that means a little bit of travel, I guess. But when sitting on those boards, you already know some of the people on the boards that you'd be sitting on? Have you had experience with them over the years?
Yes.
Okay.
So I worked with the police department and the sheriff's office as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. When there's an officer involved shooting, the Division of Criminal Investigation treats that as an act that needs to be investigated, even though the officer or the deputy or the patrolman is doing his or her job.
Right.
That shooting is investigated, and I've represented those clients before. So, a deputy or an officer who's involved with a shooting who's being investigated by DCI also has the right to an attorney, and I've done that for people in our community. So, yeah, I like to think that I've done a whole bunch of stuff within the criminal justice system that gives me a good perspective.
Okay. How many years you been working in the Laramie County area?
Well, I'm from here.
Okay.
And then went to school in Laramie. When I graduated, I worked in D.C., And then I got married and moved to Hawaii because my husband got a teaching job there. And then when I went to law school, it was back in Laramie.
Okay.
So I've been in Laramie County now for about 20 years.
To the caller on hold, hang on, because she'll still get a chance to talk to her, but I got to go ahead and run to news time here. Where do people find you online? Where are you going to be next talking to people?
I'm going to be out canvassing tomorrow in Eastern Cheyenne. And you can find me online at la4da.com.
la4da.com. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. For those who missed this entire interview, you're going to find it on our website, kgab.com, or on Facebook. You'll find it there as well. It's already up there right now, as a matter of fact, if you want to go ahead and click on it and watch the entire interview. It's AM 650, KGAB Radio, or kgab.com. So I got Fox News coming up. Look at your weather forecast, sports, and then you and I get back into it for the rest of the program.
We're headed towards a beautiful